Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Wasim. I'm one of the volunteers here at London Colony Islamic Center, and we've got Imam Abdul Muhit and one of our other resident Imams, Maulana Yamin, here today. We just thought, we're coming up to the end of Ramadan, and we just thought, why don't we have like a little reflection session with some of our local students and scholars. So inshallah, we're today just Assalamu alaikum to you both.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Maulana? You okay?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Doing well.
Yourself?
Alhamdulillah, going well, Alhamdulillah. How's your Ramadan going?
Alhamdulillah, cannot complain.
Oh, mashallah. It's been a very, very different one this year, huh? With all the lockdown and stuff. So what have you been doing to sort of, with that in mind kind of thing? So obviously it's a much, much different situation.
Alhamdulillah, of course, when the coronavirus, etc., came up, since then, we've been continuing to hear lectures surrounding using this time wisely as we're isolated from the world. We cannot go out of our homes. Therefore, it's actually an opportunity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to reflect. And of course, as the month of Ramadan has come, it has been definitely a lot different, especially the last 10 nights. We all know how the atmosphere is, especially in London Colony Islamic Center. But even then, the actions that we do, we usually do at home anyway, such as engaging, reading the Quran, reflecting on the Quran, etc. And then Alhamdulillah, we've tried, and as Imam Muhit on a daily basis gives the Surah Mulk challenge and the Quranic treasures and things like this. And we'll see online there's so much going around for us to watch and to ponder about Quran reflections, etc. So in that sense, it hasn't actually been that much different. But yeah, it has been a lot different.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. In fact, just speaking on the whole reflecting aspect, and obviously, like I said, reading Quran, etc. During this very sort of weird time, shall we say, what kind of areas of the Quran has really like sort of hit you, or just really come to you over this Ramadan?
I think there was actually a hadith which really got to me, and of course, in the Quran and throughout the Quran, the concept of taqwa is continuously mentioned. And another thing which I've been paying attention to a lot more is the verses regarding the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls all of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls the world. And these verses specifically because of that one hadith in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, it's quite a long hadith, but the Prophet ﷺ taught Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma a few words, and in these few words he said to him, "Ihfadillah yahfadhk," which means protect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means protect the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the religion of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you. And he was addressing a young child in Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma at that time. And he said, "Ihfadillah tajidhu tujahak." Protect the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, i.e. within yourself, and you'll find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facing you. And we'll see with the concept of taqwa, which is the objective of Ramadan, for us to gain taqwa, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions taqwa continuously in the Quran, and we'll see that when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam addressed him, he followed this up by saying, "Wa'alam anna al-ummah." So he gives him and encourages him to the benefit of knowing the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be the one that protects us all. So as long as we ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we believe and have conviction, and that's similar to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding whoever fasts in the month of Ramadan, imana wa ihtisaba, having belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having that conviction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive. Thereafter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will forgive. And then the next part in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions وَعَلَمْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةَ, that if the ummah was to gather together, if everyone was to gather together, أَن يَنْفَعُوكَ بِشَيْءٍ, to try and benefit you in some way, then they won't be able to unless it's something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for you. Similarly, if they all get together to try and harm you in any way, then they will not be able to do so. So looking at the situation of coronavirus, for example, we'll see it's a disease which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in this world, and how the full ummah has gathered together, World Health Organization, subhanallah, and to try and to look for medication and to find immunity from this coronavirus. Yeah, if it's not decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then until then it's not going to happen. And it really shows us the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the verses regarding the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's been a focus on that a lot.
Oh, mashallah, mashallah. And to be honest with you, similar for me, like, you know, thinking of adhkar and stuff and the remembrance of Allah, when you remember that He's the best of all planners, it really hits home around this time when, you know, we try to make our plans and we try to find any way we can. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ultimately the greatest of planners, and whatever He's decided to do is for the best. Alhamdulillah. Now, Jazakallah khair, that was a really, really beautiful reminder actually during Ramadan. Especially, alhamdulillah, thank you very much for sharing that. Just wondering as well, just outside of Ramadan and in general, is there any other sort of areas of the Quran or that really kind of you really find some closeness with, or you find really that brings some significance?
Of course, there's when there's a quote of a scholar saying that the Quran, it continues to amaze. And as we're going through the various tafasir, commentaries of the Quran, there's so many tafasir which have been written. And we'll see that it does continue to surprise us. And there's so much more knowledge that comes out every single day regarding the Quran. And we'll see that scholars, they've excelled in not just the gist of what the Quran is trying to say, but also they've taken into consideration every single letter and analyzing every single letter of the Quran. And of course, we have to, for that, is the Arabic language which we learn. But specific themes, of course, for example, when it comes to praying Salah, one of the most, well, what I tend to recite and what I like reciting during my Salah is the verses asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we ask Rabbana la tahmil alayna isran, for example, the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, and even the last two surahs of the Quran, Al-Mu'awwadhatayn, they are surahs in which we are asking refuge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan and from the evils of this world. So particularly them type of verses, I pay attention to, and I think it's important as well that the ad'iyah, the du'as in the Quran, we try and learn them and read them on a daily basis, and especially when it comes to our salah.
Inshallah, mashallah. Jazakallah khair for that, Imam. Another thing, kind of, you just touched on it now actually, just around Arabic and kind of like the importance of Arabic and stuff. And I just wanted to find out, obviously, alhamdulillah, you've had that opportunity to study the language, and just wanted to find out whether, having learnt the language or aspects of the language, does that change your relationship with the Quran? Because I know obviously we have English translated books and things, but actually learning the language itself, does that change your level of your relationship with the Quran?
Yeah, definitely. I'd encourage everyone to try and learn the Arabic language. And I really hope, inshallah, we can, in LCIC, we can support people and open a class for people to learn the Arabic language. Of course, as you're studying it, it's such a beautiful language. And then, of course, it's the language of the Prophets, the Prophet ﷺ, the language of the Quran. And there's so much, there's people, Ahlul Lugha, which is the people of Al-Lugha language. And we'll see that even when they have explored the Quran, for example, one example is in Surah Al-Ma'un. I came across it recently. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدع اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. So here, for example, ولا يحض على طعام المسكين, that just translates to the people who they don't encourage in feeding the poor, right? So the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word ta'amul miskin as opposed to it'amul miskin would actually make more sense here, it'am al-miskin means to feed the poor. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned it here in this surah, and throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned it like this as well, then it means that they don't encourage, or they don't encourage on ta'am al-miskin, which means the food of the poor, which indicates that the miskin, the poor people, that food is already there, right? So it'am al-miskin, us feeding someone, that would be us doing a favor for someone.
Mm.
But in this case, it's not necessarily a favor. Yes, it's rewarding, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically chose ta'am al-miskin, which means that it's theirs already. So you're not doing a favor in that sense. So likewise, throughout the Quran, the Ahlul Lugha and the Mufassirun, that's the type of things that they have really explored, and it just makes the world of a difference in situations like that. And yeah, the language itself is just such a beautiful language, subhanallah.
Alhamdulillah. Even for
The
me,
more you learn, the more.
sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, the more you're exposed to it, the more you just fall in love even more.
MashaAllah. No, it's true. I mean, I remember once when I remember I was attending a conference, and the sheikh who was giving the conference, we were going through Surat al-Maryam, the tafsir of Surat al-Maryam, and there's a point towards the beginning where Zakaria alayhi salam is being told that he's been gifted a child. Now, the word that's used for gifted in this context was hibba, or hibba, which subhanAllah, which took me by surprise a little bit as well, to be honest, because I've always known the word hadiya to mean gift in Arabic. And I went to the sheikh and I asked him as to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's the thing, it's kind of exploring why Allah uses words at certain times in the Quran. And I asked him as to why was the word hibba used, because I've never heard of that. And apologies for my if there's any mispronunciation the way I pronounced it. Because I knew that hadiya was the word for gift. And he said, well, hadiya is a gift. It also means gift. But hadiya is a gift which as one person can give to another, i.e. I can give to you. But hibba is a gift which only Allah can give somebody. Subhanallah. And that's where a child becomes a hibba, isn't it, really? And I guess it's just that language, isn't it? Subhanallah. And the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses the words for a reason. And it really it just adds more and more layers of depth into the Quran and into the language itself, right?
Yeah, definitely. SubhanAllah.
Well, no, also just because alhamdulillah, you've studied the language to a certain level, alhamdulillah. But I'm just wondering, is one of these things like learning Arabic? Is that do you have to learn the whole language in order to benefit from it, or can we learn like little one or two rules and that will have an influence or increase our love with the Quran and our relationship with the
Quran? We should definitely try, and even when we get a basic understanding, because obviously even when we study the Arabic language, and what we got is just a glimpse of what it is. But even then, when we understand, just even if we get like a gist of what it's trying to say, then even then, if specifically in our salah, it'll definitely create that khushu and that khudu, that devotion that we're supposed to have in our salah. Even if you understand just a bit. And of course, as we're going along, the more once you learn a bit, you'll just want to learn more. That's just the beauty of that language, the Arabic language. And it definitely builds a connection and with the Quran. It builds our love for the Quran definitely as well. Just amazing.
It is. Now, just thinking of where we are in Ramadan now, we've got where the 25th night was last night. We're coming into the last 4 or 5 nights coming now, inshallah. Now, with the last 10 nights being so important, we need to kind of do our best to try and take advantage of that. And I was wondering if you have any advice for us, inshallah. What can we do? Any tips you can give to us right now that, inshallah, we can benefit from in these the last of the 10 nights and days coming, inshallah.
Yeah, there's roughly around 5 days left and nights, inshallah. So what we should do is we should make a mindset that these could be my last few days, and that's a general thing that we should have anyway, that the last thing, do I want the last thing that I'm doing to be a sin? And that's how we refrain. That's one remedy for us to stop sinning, for example. So similarly, in these last few days, we should think of it as our last. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but recently there was a video going around of a brother who passed away, I think, just before the last 10 nights. And the video was of the brother from last year, and he gave a message during Ramadan last year. And in that message, he said, make the most of our time, because we'll see many brothers that aren't, or brothers and sisters who were here last year, but they are not here this year with us. And we'll see many brothers that are here this year, but they're not going to be here next year as well. So this could be our last Ramadan, so make the most of it. And subhanAllah, that person, that video is going viral, but inshallah, it'll be a means of sadaqah jari for him, because it'll, inshallah, inspire people. So we should try and to think of it as our last. It could be our last few nights in the month of Ramadan. Even tonight could be our last, so we make the most out of the time. In regards to, sometimes there's a misconception with the odd nights and the even nights, and people like relax. But in the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, she specified it to the full 10 days. It wasn't just the odd nights in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would stand the full night, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith translates to he would tighten his belt, you can say. So that's what the way Aisha radiallahu anha said it. So that's what he'd do, especially during these last 10 nights. So even if we do feel tired, etc., and sometimes we might just fall asleep, but really try and push ourselves as much as we can to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and continue to ask, and keep in mind the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding that person who stands Laylatul Qadr Iman wa ihtisab, again, that person who stands on the night of power, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ, that person's previous sins will be forgiven, inshallah. And in regards to the even nights, if you go according to the various moon sightings, subhanallah, that goes on around the world, then our odd night for some people is their even night, for their even night is our odd night. So in that sense, we should bear that in mind as well, and like in that way, every single night of the last 10 nights, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. That was a very, very deep reminder, mashallah. Jazakallah khair for that. Now, just my last question now, inshallah, is just around kind of, now we're coming to the end of Ramadan. Should we not have a mindset also of kind of how we continue with life after Ramadan, and what we take from it from Ramadan? And just want to get your thoughts of that. How do we prepare for life after Ramadan?
Yeah, so definitely, of course, usually the Eid day, the khutbah will be that reminder. But so of course there's the concept of al-istiqamah, continuity and being consistent in what we do. And of course the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that ahabbul a'mal ila Allah azza wa jal adwamuha wa in qal, that the most beloved actions to Allah in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ones adwamuha, the ones that are continuously done, wa in qalla, even if it's a little bit. So of course when Ramadan comes, there's that spiritual boost automatically which happens, and we engage in a lot more ibadah than what we can do outside Ramadan. So we shouldn't necessarily implement, well, it'll be very difficult to maintain the same amount of ibadah that we have been doing, especially because of the virtues that we're aware of. So, but for example, if we have been reciting the Quran more than usual, or if it's the first time that we started reciting the Quran, then what we should do is we should make a start. I actually had a plan this year during the Eid Salah khutbah. I was gonna make everyone open a Quran and read for like 2 minutes, just for a starter, and then make them continue build on that, inshallah. But of course, continuing the actions, taking it outside Ramadan. Of course, we, for the first few days, maybe even weeks or months, we're probably still going to be in isolation, and the rules, the lockdown rules, will still apply. So we really utilize this time, especially for many of us who may be working from home, etc. Utilize that time and then build on that, and continue to ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala And one of the most important du'as, I think, is رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَدُنْكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْوَهَّابُ. This is a very powerful dua, especially at this time. And of course, when Ramadan comes, we get that spiritual booster and our iman is a lot stronger. Inshallah, that's the outcome of Ramadan. And of course, it's a sign of acceptance. And this dua, we are asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not misguide our hearts بعد إذ هديتنا, after we have been given guidance. And of course, now the level of guidance has increased and is very high at the moment. So this is the best time. Well, of course, we make it throughout the year and every single day of our lives, but we continue to make this dua, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا, because now because we're on a spiritual high, we ask Allah that He doesn't take that away from us, inshallah. Yeah.
I mean, no, Jazakallah khair, subhanAllah. That's a really, really great, some good advice there. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for your time, Maulana Yamin. Alhamdulillah, I think we've all really benefited from this opportunity to reflect with you. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, please remember some du'as, and inshallah, we make du'a that you will get a chance to present that khutbah, inshallah. Another Eid, inshallah, and that we all benefit from that too. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair for your time. And inshallah,
Jazakallah wa iyyak.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.